Tom, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here, Steve.
How did you get into theater?
Well, it started probably about 9 years ago, actually, I guess. I went and saw Oklahoma at the Hobby Center.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. It was such a good show. And I guess it was about a year and a half or so later, I found out that they were doing Oklahoma here at the Crighton.
Right.
And I said, man, my granny would love to see that show. My granny would love it. She doesn't get out that much back then. So I went and I told her, so we're going to go buy 2 tickets, and you and I are going to go watch Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought her here. She loved the show. I loved the show. And I looked at the playbill. In the back of the playbill, it said, we have open auditions for every show. Anybody can audition for any show.
Right.
And I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. And they actually made an advertisement that night. Hey, we're having auditions for our next show, which was Death by Chocolate, tomorrow night. You know, make sure you come and audition if you ever want to be on the stage. And I couldn't make it. I was working. So I came up for the next show, which was A Christmas Carol, Scrooge and Marley.
Mm-hmm.
Came up, auditioned for that. I remember sitting out in my truck before coming up to auditions, and I kept telling myself, what in the world am I going to go up there and do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go make a fool of myself. So I walked up, I very calmly walked up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget walking across the street, walking up the stairs, got in there. They gave me a script. I started reading. And the very first lines I read, my hands were trembling so bad I could not read the words on the page. And thankfully I'd read a few lines before, because I would have not been able to read them because the book was trembling so bad. I got 2 very small parts in that show, and I was very excited about it. And from then on, I did at least 3 shows a year from that time.
Wow. So you didn't know anyone at auditions, right?
I knew nobody. And I felt really intimidated when I had people like Carolyn Wong and Terry Woods, where they all looked like they had rehearsed a scene before they came to audition. And they got up there and just the part with Old Joe, they had that part nailed. I was like, my gosh. So after that, I got a part in that show, and I worked my butt off building sets. I was up here because my job allowed me, you know, being off during the week, so I was able to come up here and build sets a lot, and got a pretty good reputation as somebody who'd work hard, and just that alone got me into my second show. Because the next one was Grace Thompson.
Yes.
Who was directing the next show, Tea House of the August Moon.
Yes. Yeah.
And but you and I were in that show, weren't we?
No, I wasn't in the show, but I do remember. It's actually a very good show. That's a very good.
Well, when we got in, Grace Thompson called me home, said that she really wasn't too sure about me, so she called Becky Teague and asked me about the last
Were you
show.
okay?
She said, Tom was a worker. He was here all the time. You need help, he'll do it. He'll do it. He'll be there to help you. And that got me in by itself, got me in the second show, and that was into that.
In fact, there were a lot of people from the Christmas show that also had the Tea House of the August Moon. Mm-hmm. When Bonnie in there, when Wes in there.
Yes, matter of fact, Wes built that beautiful scene for the tea house. It was wonderful what he built. I couldn't imagine how he built it. It was interesting trying to get it to fly in.
Oh yeah,
that was fun.
Well, you actually talking about the Christmas show. You know, Becky was famous for doing all the different Christmas shows here at the Crighton for a long time. But I also remember working. Was it Family Night? We were still painting the set.
Family Night, we weren't even done with it. Matter of fact, opening night, we were still. We had. Matter of fact, she had to go in the back and on the window for Scrooge and Marley.
Right.
Had to paint Scrooge and Marley on the night of the show.
Yes.
Had to put the stencils on there and spray paint it the night of the show. Yeah. So it was a very interesting show.
You know, we talk about Christmas shows, that there are a lot of people that won't do Christmas shows because they say, you know, they won't enjoy the holidays or something like that. They don't
it is very time consuming.
It is time consuming, but, you know, I don't know a better way to give a gift.
Exactly.
People, a gift of laughter and enjoyment, you know,
well, and
that season. You know?
But that's the whole point, you know, it is a gift.
Right.
The audience is being given a gift by the actors.
Right.
You know, and we work our tails off to make as good a show as we can.
Right.
And when the people come out to see the show, it's, you know, we enjoy being on stage, so it's a gift to us that they came. But if we can lift them up and help them and encourage them somehow, what better time to do that than Christmas time?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's when, you know, people suicide, depression, alcoholism.
It's strange but true.
All during Christmas time, and if you can help people feel better during that time, it'll help.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So now you've got Reese Paint in your blood. You're really enjoying this show. Now you've got 2 shows on your belt. You know, the August Moon. Then what was after that?
The next show was My Fair Lady.
Really?
That was my first musical I'd been in, and I had not done that much singing in many years.
Yeah, but you sang in church, though, right?
Yes, I did for a long time, but I never had to rehearse 5 days a week for a show. You show up 2 hours for a church on Sunday.
Right.
You don't show up 5 days a week, 2 hours, 3 hours a night to rehearse for a show, for a service. But that was interesting because I'd never danced in my entire life. Mm-hmm. I'd never danced with anybody.
Right.
And I had to learn how to dance for that show, how to waltz and such like
right.
that. Yeah, it was very interesting. I enjoyed that.
That was a huge set, too. My Fair Lady, the multi-story
set. That was an incredible set. That was a beautiful set, how we built the inside of Higgins Library. It was lovely. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind having a house like that.
My Fair Lady, first musical. You know everybody else? I mean, you probably didn't know them then, but who else was in there?
Well, of course, your wife was in there, of course.
I bet Marilyn was in there. I bet John Thies was in there.
John Thies was in there.
Art, yeah.
One night was so funny. What was? I can't remember her name. It was her first show with us, and she hadn't been back since she played the lead.
Scarlet Synopsis.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen her since. Yeah, she's done stuff down in 1960. I think I've seen her in Fiddler on the Roof. Mm-hmm. That one, but I haven't seen her lately.
I remember we had to put, because we had the pit open.
Yeah.
The orchestra pit. We had that open for that show, and the first night we did it, they did not have a ledge built around the pit.
Right.
And Higgins dropped a handful of change on the floor, and change was rolling down to the pit. And it became apparent on opening night that maybe we should put something there to make sure no one steps off into the pit during the show.
Oh, yes.
That would probably ruin the whole thing.
For some people, yes.
Yeah, of course, David was down there playing, and of course, here comes the change running on top of his head. You know?
That's pretty wild. So after My Fair Lady, did you take a break, or what did you do?
I actually held off until... Did I hang off till? Yes, I did not do another show until Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
And I had someone came to me and they said, "You really need to audition for that show," and because they thought I did a really good older person,
right?
And they thought I could play the Kris Kringle part,
right?
And I went to auditions. I felt very confident. I remember my very good friend who is now gone to Honolulu, gone back home, Jeff Elkins.
Yes.
He and I were really the only two people they were looking at for the part of Kris Kringle.
Right.
And I felt bad because I love Jeff to death, and I thought he would make a good Kris Kringle. He had a good voice, had a good presence and such. And they were doing MASH at the time. They were doing MASH.
Yes.
And so he was coming up during rehearsals trying to be a part of the audition.
Oh, in both of them?
Yes, and he's in rehearsal and running up to audition at the same time, up and down the stairs. And so I had to do the Kris Kringle part with every little girl that was auditioning for the show to do the Susan part.
Right.
And before auditions was over, that one scene that we kept doing, I was off script.
Right.
During auditions,
because
I had done it so many times. There's 28 little girls auditioning for that part, and so I was off script during the auditions.
Wow!
And before I left that night, they told me I had the part, and it was the greatest part. I could die happy. I did. That was the greatest part I ever had. I promise. It was an awesome part.
Man, you probably lost weight because I don't think you ever left the stage except to change.
In that show, I probably lost almost 20 pounds. Because I can't wear a shirt without a t-shirt. I have to wear a t-shirt. So I had a t-shirt, I had a cotton white button down, and then I had a vest sweater just for the part of Chris. Then when it came, I had to do the Santa Claus part. I had to put on the Santa Claus suit, and it was especially made by Lynn Peveril.
Right.
Lynn made a beautiful costume. It was such a wonderful costume. But it was extremely heavy, and it was extremely thick, and it was ungodly hot.
I don't think it was that cool winter either.
No. It was a very hot Christmas. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But I never really came off. I was on the stage for every scene, I think, but two. So I would go off stage and have to change quickly. They had two people there, and they had a bucket of ice.
Right.
And I always had a hat when I was on stage.
Right.
So whatever hat I wasn't wearing was on top of that bucket of ice.
Wow.
So I would go back there, and they would swap hats, and it was very interesting. So when I was wearing the Santa Claus suit, I wore a pair of slacks, Santa Claus pants, pair of boots, T-shirt, white button-down, sweater vest, and the Santa Claus top jacket. So it was interesting. Every night I would feel that beard come off, and the chin never held, ever. And me and the girl who played Susan, Talia, had to be very careful. Be careful when you pull the chin, baby, because it ain't touching nothing.
Yeah.
And it was right here, would hold it on, and that was all that held it.
Right.
And then one Sunday afternoon, I was out shaking hands, talking to the kids, because the kids were just kids loved it.
Okay, I loved it, yeah.
When I came back in, just as I walked in the door, the beard fell off.
Oh dear!
All the kids were gone, but they fell off. And there was this little girl in the show. She was such a sweetheart. I love that. She would draw me pictures.
Right.
And bring them to me while I'm on stage, being prosecuted during rehearsals, you know.
Right.
She'd always bring me pictures and things that she had drawn for me. She was only 4 years old.
Right.
And I can't remember her name, but she was such a darling. And she would backstage, we always refer to each other by our stage name.
Sure.
Because it's so easy to get confused.
Right.
So everyone always called me Chris backstage.
Right.
And her grandmother came to me one day, she said, Tom, that little baby really thinks you're Santa Claus.
Right.
She would come to the dressing room and watch me put my makeup on.
Right.
She saw me put the beard on.
She still
thought I was Santa Claus. She called me Chris all the time. And her grandmother said she really believes you're Santa Claus.
That's wild.
Oh, but it was such a sweet thing. I wouldn't trade that show for anything in the world. It was so wonderful.
Now
the only problem was in that show.
Yeah.
I had to memorize the entire script.
Of course,
the entire script. I had never had to memorize so much in my life, but I woke up every morning and did the entire show while I was getting ready for work, while I was driving work. I did the entire show, word for word, everybody's lines.
So that's how you learn the lines. Yeah, that many lines. Just do it over and over and over and over, all the time.
Repetition.
Right.
Right.
You know, we talk about the Christmas show not just being a gift to the community, but it's really a gift to the kids that are in because you're a family while you're that show. And think of all the kids that grew up. That have grown up over time. And Michael, my son, was in there. Sachi was in there. We have talked about her.
Exactly, yeah.
She learned Dutch
for the
part, right?
Yes.
And I guess you did too.
I had to learn Dutch, and we had a lot of fun. Little Sachi, I loved her to death. It was so sweet in that show because she was the Japanese girl playing a Dutch orphan, So, but she was so cute.
Oh, she was awesome.
You bought it, And then of course we both had to learn Dutch. They had to hire tutors for both of us.
Yes.
To learn the Dutch for the show, and it was just a wonderful thing. I always loved how you really do your best to make the most reality out of the show.
Absolutely.
Even when we did Tea House of the August Moon, all the lines had to be perfect.
Right.
And I worked for the airline where I work around a lot of Japanese interpreters. And in that particular show, I had Japanese interpreters, and they'd say, okay, say this line. And I would say exactly, no, you don't have it right. No, do it again. But yeah, it was always good to get it right so that people that are in the audience that know the language realize that you really did.
You made an effort,
exactly.
to get it right. Well, let's digress a little bit. Let's talk about what you do in real life. What do you do in real life?
Well, I wake up in the morning and I go to the airport, and I work for the airline formerly known as Continental.
Yeah, well.
And I'm still having trouble with that. And but that's where I spend most of the day. And then in the evenings, of course, when I go back to the house, I go back to a home that is kept so clean by this beautiful wife that I just married about a year ago. So that's always fun.
It came to summer, then you did. It was a summer special. That was Agatha Christie. It was supposed to be an Agatha Christie.
It
and
was
it didn't
exactly.
happen.
We were doing. It used to be 10 of these hours. Then there were none.
Right.
It wasn't. It was.
But it had two ghosts. Didn't it have two? Yeah.
It had two ghosts in the show.
And you played what?
Really special way. I played a retired commander from the British military, British Navy.
Right.
And it took roughly an hour and a half every night to get my makeup on for that show.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. What's his name?
Dale?
Not
Wes.
Dale. No. Michael.
Hayes.
Michael Hayes did my makeup.
Yeah.
And he did an incredible job. I had liver spots. I mean, he really went all out. From 20 feet away, I looked like just an old man. I actually had my grandfather a few months prior to the show had passed away, and he had, for some reason, left me his cane.
Wow, so you get to use the cane?
I used his cane in that show, and I was just a mean old sucker. Oh, I was mean. I didn't take nothing off anybody. I really, It was a lot of fun doing that show. Oh, but it was a lot. It was a good show. I enjoyed doing it. The ghost story was. It was a pretty scary show. To be honest with you.
Right.
Now, if you weren't backstage where we had all the setups, and they had some pretty good special effects for it.
Right. Now that was supposed to be, I think, the last show here.
Yes.
That the players did.
Exactly. And matter of fact, it was interesting because our friend Marcia Bates.
Yes.
Said the last line in that show.
Yes.
And she was really excited because she was going to get to say the last line that the Crighton players had in the last show in the Crighton Theater. And then they end up, the other theater wasn't open and prepared in time, and so they had to do the next show, the Buddy Holly story,
which we ended up working because that was supposed to be a minimal set.
A minimal set.
Which Marley Good was stage managing, and then all of a sudden she needed help.
A lot of help.
A lot of help. So that meant you, me, Carolyn, Rhonda, McLaughlin, Elise, these. I mean, just as all people. I remember,
so
it was at least that.
People,
it was like
and there were
six,
so many pieces to move.
Oh my God, it was a workout.
The entire band, drums, guitars, everything had to be moved on and off stage. Just pianos, that had been gutted out to make them as light as possible.
It was everything, yeah.
Everything you could imagine was just put in for that show. And it, like you said, minimal set.
It was a workout, but we had a good time.
It was a lot of fun, and we got a free concert every night.
That's right.
It was a wonderful time. It was a great show.
I seem to remember there was one time I think you still had to come from work directly, so I don't think you were there for one of the shows. And then you just had to slip in there and actors like straight from work. You get over here.
That may have actually. I think you are right.
I know you were in your uniform basically when you got here.
Had to come here and change clothes. Exactly. Yeah, that's happened on several occasions. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes my job doesn't allow me to get here at a timely fashion.
Right.
So
that was Buddy Holly. We had a great time, but we worked backstage.
We worked our tails off.
And we thought that was it, except till Christmas.
Well, that brings in a whole new story right there. You know, an entirely new story about the birth of Stage Right.
Well, let's talk about that. It would be nice, but
absolutely,
there was a lot on the line. So when I asked you to join our effort, why did you say yes? I mean, you could have easily done what I would have done in my youth, which is like, I'm not going to get involved. It's fine. I know what's right and wrong, but.
It was you and I and Carolyn having a conversation in your kitchen.
Yep.
And I believe over chips and dip.
Yeah.
And it was, I believe, your wife was really emotional about the Crighton Theater just literally going to sleep and dying.
Right.
Because there's not enough here.
Right.
In the year to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
Without a theater company. Right. This place would have gone bankrupt, and what are you going to do with a building that can't be torn down and can't be renovated because it's a historical monument? What do you do with it?
Right.
So, we all three were discussing it, and I felt like y'all. What can we do?
There were things we couldn't tell her because of that conflict of interest. Remember, we were big on conflict of interest, as you recall.
Very big.
We were doing the bylaws. You and me doing bylaws.
I remember the bylaws at 3 o'clock in the morning at your house, and I only had to wake up at 5.
That's right. We were pretty big on conflict of interest, so we knew there were certain things she could not know. She could guess at it, but she couldn't know directly.
Yes.
It was hard on us, believe me. It was hard.
It was a very, very difficult time for a lot of people. And I think, I don't know of anybody else. I got to say, it was just a miracle, miracle on Main Street.
Yeah.
That Stage Right became what it was, in 2 months?
Yeah.
Because we created it, we got the people that wanted to be involved, brought them to your house, worked up, created the organization, created the bylaws, came up with what's our mission statement, and everything from scratch. And hey, it's Sunday afternoon. If we're going to do a show, we probably need to have auditions by Thursday. So we had to literally throw it together. Yeah. And then of course our first show was such a tremendous success for a company that didn't exist.
Yep.
Go straight from nothing to having our first show and having, what was it, 2,800 people saw our first show, 2,400?
It was 1,800 for the first one.
For the first one?
2,800 was the last Christmas show.
Okay.
Yes, but 1,800 for a no-name company was pretty good.
Right. I remember though, it was so funny. We were doing everything we could to get people to come. Here, we'll give you a ticket for $5. I don't care. Just how much do you want to pay? We're giving AAA discounts. We're giving. Well, oh, did you go to high school? You get the high school discount. You know. Wait, you were born, right? Get a birth certificate. Get the birth certificate discount. Yeah. Yeah. Anything we could to get them to come, and it worked out really well. People came and they enjoyed. Yeah. And what are we at now? What 600 season ticket holders now almost. Yeah. You know, 4 years later. But,
pretty amazing for me.
And I'll never forget. I did not get the part that I wanted.
That's right.
I did
you wanted the part of the sheriff.
I wanted the part of the sheriff. I really wanted to be Sheriff Butner.
Yeah,
I did not want to be Raynard Chisholm.
Except that nobody could have done Raynard.
Nobody is, our director decided he wanted me to be Raynard and wanted Michael Robbie, because Michael Robbie plays the part tremendously. He's really good. He's very believable. Yeah. And so I got the part of Raynard Chisholm, and I really didn't want it, but I figured, if I've got it, I have to put all I have into it. Yeah. And turned out to be one of the, besides Kris Kringle, I really think they're on the same level as being the best part I ever had. I got a lot of fans because of the Raynard Chisholm character.
Well, it's interesting because that's essentially the Linus character. Peanuts, he gets it, right? Yeah. He knows what the Christmas is all about. And your character, Raynard Chisholm, he's the character that gets it. Mm-hmm. And I remember before that speech that you do, where the Christmas is all about, that sometimes we pray right before
every
going
time.
there. You remember?
I would always go backstage. Yes. I'd always have to go back there and get ready.
We want to do it justice, right?
Exactly. Because it's a, to some people, that may be the only Christmas story they ever hear.
That's right.
And it's word for word right out of the book of Luke.
Yes.
So I felt very obligated to do it. Do it as much justice as possible. And every night, I had about 20 minutes between the time I went on stage until that came up.
Yes.
And every night I'd be backstage, praying.
Absolutely. It was the prayer before the prayer, essentially.
And to this day, I still have people who saw that show, and we've done it again since. And, and they loved it.
It's hilarious. It's funny, but it still gets the meaning of Christmas across. The typical things that we like to do. It's fun, right? It still has meaning.
Exactly.
It's not just fluff.
It's true.
So it's interesting. So it was a great success, and actually that kind of led to the next show, which was in terms of attendance, really was a dismal failure.
Yes, the love letters. Yeah,
but interesting.
That was an accident, though. Love letters was an accident.
Well, that's right, because we weren't intended to do that. Yes.
We were working with another company who I understand now is out of business.
Yeah.
But that was going to work with us, and it was very interesting. We at Stage Right, after our success of Christmas Bells, was preparing to do this show with another company because we weren't prepared to do it a full show.
No, we weren't.
We had done everything we had for that first show. We had nothing left.
Right.
The entire board was on the cast, the production, and everything. We had done everything. We were all just slap wore out.
Right.
And so we really didn't want to do another show.
Nope.
But we didn't want to wait 5 months to do another show either.
Right.
So we got with the other company, and they said, let's do Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka,
we'll do that together. Great. We're going to support each other. We'll help with the financing. We'll help with the leadership. Blah 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 blah. And they kept changing their rules. Oh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Well, we don't want to do that many shows. We don't want to do that many episodes. Blah 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 blah. And you and I went to a meeting with them and offered them, we will pay every expense for the show, and you can have every bit of profit because we put our name on the line that Stage Right was going to do the show. We have to do this show. Yeah. We'll pay for everything. You keep the profit. And they still would not do the show. They backed out of it, 3 weeks before the show? 4 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so your wife, Carolyn, said, we got to put something here.
Right.
We have to do a show. And in the love letters, cast of 2 people.
Yeah. And the thing is that, I guess people have bad memories of that. But actually, Catherine and Alan and they were awesome. They're awesome. It was a master class in itself. And the thing is, on our website, we have more people that said they saw love letters than people actually came to us.
Exactly. It's kind of turning into that Woodstock,
It's like, I was there.
50 million people were at Woodstock, yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
But what was it, 900 people came to see love letters?
I don't think it was 350.
Really?
This is where they got the moniker of we only had 20 people in the show. But Alan and Catherine are good. They played the less people.
They did a great
did
job.
An awesome job. It's one of the few shows that people, that don't normally watch shows would come and, see and say, man, this was really good.
I was really excited. I was helping your wife out up here, helping build. The sets were built. I came up here one day after work. I was helping her paint and everything. Yeah. She had just painted the walls. She said, Thomas, if you just paint the trim for me, I'll be. So I said, okay, I'll paint the trim. So I taped off the wall and everything. So I painted the trim. The trim looked all real pretty. I grabbed the tape, ripped the tape, and it takes all the paint off the wall. I had to go back and retape the trim and repaint the wall for her. I was like, oh my goodness.
Well, we made it through it. Actually, because of that, sometimes you have to have things that are seemingly bad happen, because then we start getting a lot of allies. Yeah,
exactly. And, and then we got one of our best allies we ever had right there because of that.
Yes, absolutely. And so, so that's where we really learned that we needed allies that are outside the power structure.
Right.
In this area. Let's just leave it at that. And we started to get those allies and stuff, so that's
Ozzy was the first.
Awesome. You know what?
He jumped on that and just he helped us and he has run with it. I guarantee you.
It's amazing. There are people who will stick their neck out and they don't care what anybody else thinks. And he's one of those guys.
Exactly.
He said, you guys are doing right. You know what? I'm going to help you out.
Exactly.
And he's been an incredible ally ever since. Yes. So that was one of the best things. V. Rouse, he was filming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Costumes. Oh, my goodness. Yes, we had a wonderful time dealing with her. Absolutely.
Which led to the next show. It was something hospitality.
Which that was a great show.
And you got to do what the part you wanted, which is the sheriff this time, right?
And I got to work. I got to work opposite of one of the best actors I've ever met in my entire life, which is, of course, Carolyn Wong.
Well, you got to sleep on stage, right?
I did. I actually one night I did fall asleep. And of course the good part was someone had to really kick me to get me to wake up. So I'm supposed to be asleep.
Was Rhonda doing that? Rhonda
was wake up! That was a wonderful show. I got to play the part of the sheriff. I was excited about that.
We had a heck of a time finding Civil War costumes. But what we finally got to was perfect.
I loved it because I always saw the part of Sheriff Butner as the classic big-bellied sheriff,
right.
So I kind of crossed big-bellied sheriff with Barney Fife with Paul Blart, just more gun than you could ever need. As a matter of fact, for that show, I bought a replica of a Colt 45 that was specially designed for the Texas Rangers in the 1920s.
Right.
So, I had way more gun than I ever needed, and it was an incredibly heavy gun. It weighed about 8 pounds.
Right, but it's all fake.
It could never fire a weapon.
No.
But the cartridge would spin. You could, everything worked except it wouldn't fire a bullet. But it was a heavy piece of iron, I guarantee you. But I loved it, and the show was just a blast. And I got to play the part. I was just a comedic center on that show.
Right.
And if we ever do the show again, I will do that part again. I promise.
Oh, my goodness.
It's such a wonderful part.
It's funny. We had cheaper about a dozen later, but you took the summer off because we had two shows that were right back together. Right after that, we had the vaudeville show, which you were in.
Yes, exactly. Vaudeville. Matter of fact, we were trying to find someone who had a juggle.
Yes.
Nobody we knew how to juggle, so I went on YouTube.
Right.
And it took me 2 weeks to learn how to juggle for that show. And then we didn't even end up having a juggler in the show.
No.
So we took the juggling part out, which worked fine. But now, to this day, I still juggle.
Right. And then you had like bowling gags. What else?
The bowling ball gags were so funny. And again, I looked at it at the part. It was me and John Stevens.
Right.
And I enjoyed it because he and I were really the MCs of the show.
Right.
If there were one, we were the MCs, and we had so much fun working together. It was just fun that I would go out there and play his foil. I was always, going out there and giving him the stupid notes and such like that to embarrass him in front of the audience. And of course, I was just the person that just, this is just fun. I'm just having a blast. I don't have any clue what's really going on in the world, but it's all fun. And I just love that show. There was one night we were doing the bowling ball gag, and I bowled across the stage, and the ball goes away, of course, and someone rolled it from behind me.
Right.
And I wasn't paying attention, and it hit me right on the back of my heel. And of course, you're dying of pain.
Yes,
you're wanting to cry.
But you can't show it.
And you're on stage in front of 500 people.
Don't show it.
Oh my gosh. And got off stage, and I just wanted to crawl, But yeah, those were some fun times.
So I think we did. That was after vaudeville. Was Mrs. Bob next?
Yeah, but I want to bring something up about the vaudeville show.
Yeah.
Glenn was the director of the show,
Yeah,
and it was such a great show. He really he built the show from scratch, and he did such an incredible job putting that show together. It was such a wonderful thing. However, the one thing that always blew me away is we didn't have a full run of the show until opening night.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. Yeah, a lot of lessons learned there, and it's you know, I love musicians to death, but they do view a lot of shows as gigs, and so they don't show up unless they're being paid. Right, and that was unfortunate because that was the first time we ran the show. It was opening night. Exactly. You know, yeah, because they figured, well, what do I need to do? And I think maybe. People thought of it as a typical variety show. Right. Which in a typical variety show, everyone just kind of does their own stuff. It's not really, it's integrated, but I just practice my own thing, and what I do doesn't really affect what you do, so I don't have to show up till then. But that's not true of the vaudeville show. When you're doing an authentic vaudeville show, there is kind of this scheme and timing, and there's a lot of integration of things that you don't have in a typical variety show. And Glenn did want an authentic variety show. Only comedy, only songs, only costumes from the period. Which is what this place deserved. You know, it was built for vaudeville, so why not? Let's do a real vaudeville show, not just a variety show. Nothing wrong with that. You can make lots of money with variety shows, but an authentic vaudeville show. And if you remember, I believe it was Channel 55 on television was doing a special, and they came out here and filmed about the history of vaudeville, and it was wonderful. The watching that, and of course, since Glenn has passed, it's good to go back and see him every now and then. He's still online. He's still online. He's still there. Exactly. Yeah, that is pretty wild. No, it was. That's right. The first time around the show, it was opening night. Now, what was the Christmas show you just said again? This is Bob Cratchit's Wild Christmas Dance. Oh my gosh. That was... It was different. It was a great show. It was a really good show. I don't know if we did a good enough job of letting the people know what it was. Right. You know, hey guys, don't take any of this serious. Right. None of it's real. This is pure parody. It's not real. It means nothing. And I just don't know if we got that. Well, we kept trying to push it, to push that. Jeff certainly did that, from the stage. He was saying, this is more like Saturday Night Live. Don't take it seriously. It's just parody. But sometimes it's still gotten taken that way. There are people who will still come up to me and say, that was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. And but we also had people that wanted their money back from season tickets. That's right. Yeah, we had a lot of apologies for that show. And I hate to say we had to apologize for a show. Right. But what do you do? Yeah. And I think, and I talked to Jeff about this film, about that show. Right. And Jeff actually told me, he said, Tom, I'm glad that Stage Right was not afraid to do that show. Because we are known for our family entertainment. Right. And if you want to bring your family and your kids to our shows, and my mantra has always been, since I was one of the founders, if my grandmother couldn't come see the show, we're not going to do it. Now I would fight for that. Right. And this show, I felt my grandmother would come and enjoy it. Yeah. Some people. And I think part of it is just execution, not to blame anyone. Because we're all in it, so we're all to blame. But you almost have to do it almost as a caricature, so that people were almost like a cartoon. Yeah. So people realize, it's like because think about a cartoon. There's a lot of things that happen to a cartoon that if there were in any other context, you would not, you wouldn't be laughing. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Right? The whole thing, the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner, a mountain. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We laugh at that in a cartoon, and I guess it was meant to be cartoonish. Right. But the thing is, it had to be taken that way too. Otherwise, it's just like a cartoon. You can that's not funny. Well, and the thing about Montgomery County is we really only, because the county is so small, it's such an older county, we really don't have the base of an audience that Houston would have. Right. Where you could do that show and Houston never even ever get a blink. No, absolutely not. But our people that are coming here... It's a learning too. You have to know your audience. And our audience is very much not just family or oriented, but that means that there's certain things that they want to see and don't want to see. Right, exactly. Or they'll put up. So that's a learning too, and that's a valuable lesson. Yeah. Well, you know what, we learned a lot during that show, and while again we did have to issue some apologies to people that were offended by it, I don't think I would trade what we learned for that from that show for anything in the world, because we did learn a lot from it. You learn a lot from everything that you do, and as long as you take the lesson, there's nothing wasted. It's true. It's very true. So yeah, we did Mrs. Bob, but then let's see, what did we go into? Oh, there was another one of our upsets. We used to call February Curse Month. Remember?
Yeah, exactly.
We were supposed to do coal.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And we couldn't do coal, so we had to do lend me a tenner.
We couldn't do coal because we couldn't get the proper documents from the production company.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Okay. Well, you said it's 2 sets of Act 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you want Act 1? Look around, see if we can find it. Okay, we can't find it. Okay, can we make some changes? No, you can't make any changes.
Yeah, it says you're supposed to use these pictures from Cole. Do you have them? No.
Nope, never had them. No.
So can we delete it? No.
So can we have our own pictures? No. Okay, I guess you didn't want the show to be done. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we ended up canceling that. As a matter of fact, the director walked out of rehearsal and quit.
Yeah.
Walked out of rehearsal and quit, and I think we came back and we compromised with him to do Lend Me a Tenner.
Which turned out pretty well, actually.
Mm-hmm. People enjoyed it, yeah.
People enjoyed Lend Me a Tenner. A little edgier than we would normally do.
When you're in a bind, you're in a bind.
You're in a bind.
I hate
February,
to say it that way.
And we were so tired of it. Always been, it's like
every February
tired.
show, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but we made it through.
Mm-hmm.
Did we do Dearly Beloved after that?
I believe it was.
Dearly Beloved, which of course you got to play as Sheriff.
Again, I was Sheriff Butner. I
love the line you got. The line about when you found them. Was it between the propane tank and the
yes.
crepe myrtles?
Right there between the propane tank and the crepe myrtles. Yeah. Oh yes, that was a very fun show to do. Oh my gosh.
We brought us full circles because because about this time we got to meet the authors.
Mm-hmm. Very, very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, kind of go in retrospect. When we look at what has been done in 4 years, we've done more than most theater companies do. Something that have been around 10 times as long.
Years.
In 40 years, not just locally, but in Texas for that matter.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, we don't seek awards of that one because that's not what it's about to us.
Right. Exactly.
It's not about. I mean, yeah, it was great to work with the authors, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. We have put on a world premiere. Mm-hmm. That's great. And they asked us. We didn't ask for it.
They came to us.
That was weird. That's just so weird.
They came to us. And it was interesting. Jesse Jones actually mentioned how people contacted them.
Right.
Wanting to do premieres for them.
Right.
And I think, well, that's pretty ambitious,
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, we're good. Why don't you let us do your next premiere? And we really think a lot of ourselves, but they came to us, and it was. Like I said, you wouldn't trade it for the world. It was such a, and I can't wait the next time we get to do it.
It was a lot of fun, and we needed that shot in the arm, especially at the time, because we've got through a lot of troubles. So just trying to get things going, trying to do, say, decent entertainment for people in Montgomery County, and we needed that shot in the arm. So it was great. It was great. But they came, and we able to show them a little Southern hospitality. No, no pun intended.
Well, I think the one thing we do, especially when it gets to the community, is we have to keep the attitude up that it's really a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
We are giving something, and without the community, there's no stage right.
That's right. Absolutely.
Again, your wife said it right years ago. The first time when I heard her give her speech trying to run for the board of the Crighton Players, she said, "Good theater is a butt in every seat."
Absolutely.
And it's the truth.
That's right.
You can have the best show you could ever put on, spend $10,000 for the set, and have 3 people show up, and what's that?
That's right.
You have to have the people come and see, and if people didn't come watch our shows, there'd be no stage right.
That's right.
We can't survive without them.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand that there are people who have the attitude of, well, we don't. We have our base, our group, our core group who want to come, and it's basically like the old adage that some churches have of us four, no more.
Right.
We don't really care to do outreach.
Right.
Because we're comfortable as it is, and someone can come take my pew. Well, it's the same thing here with theater. Well, we're comfortable. We have enough people to pay our bills. We're really not worried too much about anything else. No. And if you don't have outreach, if you don't go out there and advertise and push yourself in the community and make your name a statement, it's like a company who really pushes themselves out there. And whenever you think of furniture, you think of gallery furniture.
Right.
When you think of theater in Montgomery County, we want you to think of stage right.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing you know.
Right.
And that's, again, it goes back to the symbiotic relationship with the community. You have to be a part of the community. You have to collect food for the food bank, collect toys for Tots. Things like this. Work with the women's shelters,
right?
The assistance league.
Right,
And again, you become part of the community, and it gets you in areas that people don't always get around. If you're constantly going to the city of Congress and we would like you to give us money.
Right.
We want you to support us.
Right.
Well, what have you done for the community? Well, we put shows on. Okay, so what have you done for the community?
Right, right.
Well, we donated, 5,000 pounds of food. We got, 500 toys, and so on and so forth. And it's just another avenue to get your name out there.
Right. I was thinking too. Speaking about the community, it's about that time we were thinking that we needed to do something with veterans because
yes,
especially when we say especially World War II, but really all veterans.
Exactly.
But World War II, especially because they're dying off very quickly, and we did No Time for Sergeants, which you're also it was
a great show.
Yeah,
a show that I didn't want to do.
That's what I didn't want to do.
I hated the part. I hated the part of the guy that I did.
Well, you were the bad guy.
I know,
right?
and I never.
You were the bully.
I never liked the script because he never got his comeuppance. He never got in trouble for all the stuff he pulled, I'm thinking, I can't stand this part, So I decided, well, let me just try and play him and see if I can get past it that way. So
right.
That's how I did.
Yeah, I was thinking that when we had all the veterans here, we gave them free performance.
Oh, yes.
Free food.
Free food.
Back to, I was thinking of Daryl's Barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
We wanted to feed the veterans at our expense, of course, and so we kept asking him for an estimate. Well, how much is it going to be? And he kept hammering and hawing. And he finally got here and he saw what we were doing. And he said, my son is in the military. He's in Iraq.
He's in Iraq right now,
and
exactly.
If he were here, he'd be here right now. And because I see what you're doing, he gave it to us free.
Exactly.
And for that, I mean, that was awesome.
$2,500 worth of
barbecue. Yeah,
he donated. He brought the chairs and the
everything,
tables.
To set up the whole bit, tore it down.
Donated everything.
Awesome barbecue.
Yes, it was
awesome.
delicious.
Yeah.
And I love working with people, other organizations in the community.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful show.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that some people got some encouragement from it. We Lord had a lot of fun doing it.
Oh my goodness!
My little nephew came and watched that show, and in the very first scene of the show, I get knocked in the head.
Right.
And I'm knocked out on the stage.
Right.
Well, my nephew had never seen the show before, and here he is. He sees me get knocked down. Well, he was only 3 years old at the time.
Right.
So he jumps up off his chair. He's in the balcony. My sister's kitchen, and he started crying.
Oh my goodness!
He said, "Uncle Tom's dead. They killed Uncle Tom," and he was crying. She had to take him out of the theater. He was crying so hard because they thought they'd killed me.
But he figures out, yes, you're okay.
Yeah, I came back out, and he saw me on stage again, so he was better.
He's okay.
But he was messed up for a few minutes.
You know what? We had that in Cinderella here too.
Really?
Where the stepmother really lays it into Cinderella. Mm-hmm. They got kids that they're just shriveling up, and their mom's having to hold them and stuff like that.
Wow.
And fortunately, and Leona says because she hates doing it, that the first time she had to be mean to Cinderella, she cried during rehearsal because they are really mean words. Really? The only good thing about it is that that counterpoints when the fairy godmother comes in the very next scene.
Wow.
It comes to save her, if you will.
Right.
But it's the same thing. We see kids where they're going, "Mommy, poor son," and the mothers are going to take care of it. It's okay. It gets better. Well, just wait a minute.
Right. That's awesome.
Oh,
but I understand the show's doing really well right now.
It's doing really well. It looks like Disney when we get out here. The line is like 30, 40. Need to have pictures with not just Cinderella and the Prince, but that whole cast.
Right.
The mice, I don't know how many pictures they got. Autographs, not just pictures, autographs.
Wonderful.
The whole
That's
bit.
awesome.
So, no, absolutely. It has been doing really well. They've done a good job. And the odd thing is that the cast gelled early, which is unusual. Very early in the process.
Right.
And they've all enjoyed all parts of it, the parades and all these little things, the photo ops and things like that. They've had a really good time with it. So it's a good cast. And, of course, there's a lot of kids, I say kids, that you grew up with. You remember, like Sachi and also.
Now they're playing older
But now they're
roles.
bigger. Sally. You need to see her on the stage. You could that's Sally. That's she's a young woman now. Just like Sachi is on that stage now. So they've grown up, here at the Crighton. So it's pretty wild.
That's incredible. That is really incredible.
That's probably the biggest thing. And it's a sad thing, but it's you're happy for them too that they're going. But you're kind of nostalgic.
Oh my
gosh. I remember when they were small.
And they were walking around.
I remember when she was playing the little Dutch girl.
They were so cute back then.
They were so cute.
Oh, mercy.
Oh, my goodness. Well, even Michael, I think he was on Miracle on 34th, and Scrooge, he was a newspaper boy and that kind of stuff, remember? Mm-hmm. And then he gets to play a bully in the Christmas show.
That was fun to watch him in A Christmas Story.
My goodness.
He was so fun in that show. I really enjoyed watching
I think he had a good time with it. Yeah, he needed to find that mean part in him. We don't cultivate that, obviously.
Right.
But for there, he needed to be mean. Be mean.
Well, I loved it. I really enjoyed watching him come out with that aspect of the character.
Yeah.
I think he did really well.
And then, of course, they said that all bullies at some part are also cowards, and he got to show that part as well.
Mommy. I think he did really well. I was excited to see it.
So, what parts haven't you done yet that you want to do?
There is really, honestly, one part, and again, I've only been doing theater now for probably 7 years, and so I don't have the exposure to all the different shows. Right. But if there's any one part that I'd love to do, it would be the part of Judd Fry from Oklahoma.
That keeps coming up. People keep saying
I would kill to do that part. It's such an emotional part.
Right.
And you really, it's like the part that I played in The Uninvited.
Yes.
The part
that was what it was.
That was the name of the show, The Uninvited. Yes. It was like the part where I played the commander.
Right.
There's so much going on in his head of why he's mean, why he's hard.
Right.
There's so much going on up here, and I think the part of Judd Fry is such an emotional part, based on his mental problems. He's got issues.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what it came from, a bad childhood or what have you, but the guy lives in a smokehouse.
Yes.
He has a very harsh life, and for whatever reason, he has become a disturbed individual. And I hate to see people try to portray a part that they can't portray, or they don't get it. They don't get the part.
Right.
And I think I could. I hate to blow my own horn, but I think I would just nail that part. That is a part I'd really love to do.
How do you approach a character?
Well, first of all, of course, I read the script, kind of see where they're going to.
Right.
Where's the character going in the show? But then I like to look back. Where did he come from? What brought him to where he's at?
Right.
Who's his family if it's not in the show? Right. And I try to create a history. What was his childhood like?
Right.
And again, you can see so much of the past by looking at the future.
Right.
Okay, you see where he's going.
Right.
So progressively, this is where he's going. Well, he had to come from here to get to where he is now.
Right.
So, and that's how I do that. I just try to make it as real as possible.
Right.
It's like Rain of Chisholm.
Right.
I've seen different people do him differently.
Right.
And when I do him, he's got a lisp. He's got some issues mentally.
Right.
The script is very clear that he's very slow.
Right.
Mid-40s, very slow. And I see people try to play it straight.
Right.
And it doesn't work.
Right.
Because they don't know the character. I try to know the character and have sympathy for the character and what is the character trying to say to himself, including the audience and such.
Right.
And that's how I kind of approach it. That what would make me survive like this? Right.
So it's amazing because everyone's got their own way of approaching characters. Mostly there's a commonality of understanding the script, but then how they get into character. Has there ever been a character that you have a hard time getting into?
Has there been a character hard to get into? I think probably the hardest character I ever got into was one of the small parts in A Christmas Carol.
Right.
When I was playing the do-gooder, going around and asking for money for the poor.
Right.
And I had a hard time getting in because it was such a structured character.
Right.
You are this, you're a businessman, you're this, you're that. Whereas at the end of the show, I played the poultry guy, where I'm just a man on the street, so I go from an educated person to a street urchin.
Right.
So here I'm dragging the turkey across the stage. Right. I got you a turkey, governor, And I more relate with the street guy than I do the rich guy. But I had a hard time approaching the rich guy. The do-gooder simply, I can't even tell you why I had such a hard time approaching it. May have been just being new to the theater and such.
Right.
You know. But that's probably the one I had the most difficult time dealing with.
You know, now that you've started to do theater, as opposed to watching theater, do you have a hard time going to see other people do shows?
I critique it. I critique it from the get-go.
No, and
I'll
you
never
know, it's
forget.
not really fair, but you do, you know.
I went to watch, what was the name of the show? Exit the Body? No. It was Arsico Lace.
Right.
And I won't say his name, but one of the characters in the playbill had a page and a half for his bio.
Right.
A page and a half.
Right.
And the opening scene of the show, he's in there with two people who've never been on stage before in their life, and this is opening night.
Right.
And I'm there, and this guy blows his line with these two new actors. And this guy had a page and a half bio. Not only did he blow the line, he kept starting over, trying to get back into it. And, of course, the other actors were new. Right. They had no clue just to go on with it anyway.
Right.
There was over 60 seconds of dead silence on stage.
Oh, my goodness.
And I have found myself, I critique so much now. Because I'm like, that idiot, why did he do that?
Right.
Why would they do that? How? Did they read the script?
And I think it's a common, I won't say fault, but it is a failing amongst us that actually do stuff on stage, is that we forget, you know, when I go see the show, I have to look at it from two perspectives. One is I know I'm going to be critical about it, but the other part is I know I need to shut that off and try to enjoy it.
Try to enjoy it, yeah.
But that's not to say, if I were doing this, how would I do it differently? You know, it's a valid question, because we might want to do that, right? It's like, this looks like a good show, we might want to do this.
Right.
How would we do it differently? What would we keep, you know? And so, but it is. And repeatedly, we talk to a lot of folks, and they say the same things too. Like Caleb says, he has a hard time going to see shows because he's always critical of the music, because he does music, right?
Right.
And, you know, or why is that instrument this, or why did they do this, or why is the scene change taking so long? That's what Sasha said, you know. And we know we've done that. We've been there. We've had to do those scene changes.
I love it. During the last show we did here that I was involved backstage, came time for a scene change.
Yeah.
Go out there. And two of the guys supposed to be on set weren't there. They didn't show up. And so here we are. The stage manager had to throw the headset down, come out and help us go, because two of the people weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Just weren't paying attention.
It happens. It happens even in professional theater. Yeah, you know. I remember seeing a show where
But you get fired from professional theater.
Yeah.
Hard to fire volunteers.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's get to the questions we've been asking everyone so far. We'll definitely have to have you come back. I'm sure we'll have more
I'll be
stories.
Excited. Oh, yeah.
If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Well, everything I've read definitely says that it exists, and the thing I want to hear him say is, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." Because that's right there in the Bible. It says, that's what he's going to tell you. If you've been well done and you're a good and faithful servant.
Oh, by you know, we're short a few tenors. You wouldn't be interested in doing that, would you?
Well, we'll talk about that off camera. So
Tom, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve, for allowing me to come in. I enjoyed every minute of it.